trees that I had last year. I can't remember whether I had more than this last year or no, I've forgotten. But I thought this would do to start with. So I had these brass, lovely sort of ornate brass, very thin brass decorations which move around in the light and in a little bit of air current. And I had 3 of them. I was thinking about the gifts of the 3 wise men, so I was kind of getting a bit conceptual. And any decorations I had, which is snowflakey glass, I picked those out, and I thought they would just be a nice addition to this tree. And I've got one bigger star here, a beaded star. I've had this for so long, decades and decades. I can't even remember how long. But I thought that would be quite nice on here as well. Hello, and a very warm welcome to the old shop, where it's really, really cold. I was out indoors and I was a bit spoilt because it was warm indoors, and I thought I'll come and say hello out here. And well, I am, but the windscreen of the van is actually completely thickly iced up, which I hadn't realised, cushioned as I was inside the cottage. But anyway, I just wanted to welcome you to the old shop. It's a few days into December now, but I started this video for the beginning of Advent, so it's just covering the first few days of December. Just a few bits and pieces really, just the usual waffle. So I hope you'll enjoy it, and I hope you're enjoying the early December time, this feeling of approaching midwinter and the solstice. I know I am. Yeah, it's surprising how the time is going, and I have got quite a few things I would like to do, little projects to get done, but I thought I'd show you what I've been doing so far, and obviously just wanted to say hello to everybody. And yeah, but I just thought I would just show you what I've been doing so far the first few days. We've had some lovely weather. It's beautiful blue sky today, which is why I was a bit taken in by it. I'll hopefully get out for a walk later, and I hope you'll enjoy joining me for this little pre-midwinter ramble. So here we are on December the 1st, the first day of Advent, or at least our modern first day of Advent, because I can't remember whether I've mentioned this before, but there is supposed to be an older form of Advent, which is 40 days, in the same way as you have 40 days in Lent. And there are actually lots of 40 days in old Christian tradition, 40 days of the flood, for example, of Noah's Ark, and 40 days in the wilderness, and well, a lot of 40 days both. And so I'm not surprised really that perhaps Advent could be thought of as 40 days, but we mostly think of it as starting on the 1st of December, which it is today. So among many things that I thought I was going to do today was this little Advent tree. So I've taken off the pumpkin lights and the other decorations I had as an autumn tree, and I've put on just these few things. I think they're the same ones as I put on last year. I'm not absolutely sure, but I found them all together as if they were. If I find any other sort of suitable little bits and pieces, I might put them on. But I quite like it really simple, with mostly the bare branches, in the same way as, of course, the trees have got bare branches. I will have a little spruce or fir tree as well. I'll try and find a really small one this year, I think. And I've got quite a few decorations I like to put on that each time. But I've especially chose the ones for this little tree, and you may remember this from last year, but I've got this one beautiful beaded star that I've had for many years. It came from some sort of fair trade fireplace. I can't remember quite now, and I've just taken it off in my hand by mistake, but I'll put it back on after we've been talking about this. And I've also got these three very shimmery, very, very thin brass uh, snowflakes, I suppose they are. And I chose them because I thought of the gold of the gifts of the three magi. So that was my rationale there. So obviously you can see I'm getting a bit conceptual. I do try not to be conceptual about everything, but that was the idea behind those anyway. And where I got some glass, I had some glass, kind of smoky glass decorations, which again catch the light nicely, and they've got snowflakes inscribed on them. And I think that's mostly what I've put on there actually, just those, any of those glass decorations that I could find out of my stash of Christmas decorations in general. And that's what I put on there. So the stars are very, very simple, I know. And I love those stars though. They're my favourite lights I've ever had, I think. And I really didn't like taking them down from the fireplace because that's where they mostly live. But I have actually found some more stars for the fireplace for Christmas, which I'll show you in a minute. And they're paper ones. I didn't make them. But very unusually, I went to a kind of one of those sort of cheap discount shops where mostly the Christmas decorations they offer are kind of a bit glittery and red and greenish for me, if you know what I mean. A bit not my kind of thing. I'm I'm a simple soul. I like things really simple and quite neutral, and usually that you don't see anything like that there. But they had one packet of these paper star lights, and so and they were half price because I guess everything's going half price now before Christmas. So I bought them, and I'll show you those in a minute when we've finished in the kitchen here. Well, that doesn't take very long because there's not very many things on there actually, but I hope you'll agree that it's got a little bit of a magical look about it. I wanted to keep it quite simple and quite sparsely decorated, which I have done. So, yeah, I quite like it. If I find one or two more things that I think would suit it, I can always add them on. But it's quite nice to start really simply with things like this towards midwinter, I think. I believe I've read that in Scandinavia they do just that. They just do a few little, little things at a time, all through December, rather than having one big swoop and decorating everywhere, which is not really my way anyway. I like a few little simple things. So looks like this is going to be the tree for it. Well, not the only tree. I will have a Christmas tree of some kind, an actual spruce tree, because I do love the smell of them. And I've got different decorations I shall be putting on there. Probably a much smaller one than I had last year. I shall have to see what I can find. Now, while we're in the kitchen, I thought I would just show you something else I'm doing at the moment, trying to get catch up with what I wanted to get done, and that is I'm making some Christmas chutney, which I can show you bubbling in the pan. It's not ready yet. It's got to bubble like this, I believe, for 40 minutes, and I think I haven't really looked, but it hasn't had long enough yet anyway. Might have had about 20, I guess. So in the pan here, I've got some cider vinegar and some ginger and dates, cranberries, mixed fruit, apples, pears, onions. I think that's brown sugar, and all organic. I've managed to get all organic ingredients. So I'm really pleased about that. And it should make apparently 3 small jars. And as I say, it's been bubbling as it is now for probably 20 minutes. Oh, and some mandarin or tangerine or clementine. I don't know what you call them, but I guess maybe they're clementine juice and and grated peel as well. So it smells really nice and spicy. Oh, I think there's some mixed spice. Yes, there's some mixed spice in there as well. I shall better put the lid back on now so it doesn't boil dry, and I shall leave it for I don't know, another quarter of an hour or so probably, and then give it a good stir and see if it's ready to put into the jars. If it's gone jammy and thick, and then it should be a good time. Hopefully, it's a good time now to do it so that it can mature a little bit before Christmas. I actually don't usually make or buy chutneys of any kind. I'm not a great user of it normally, but it's quite nice to have different. You already know me, I like to have different seasonal foods just at one time of year, the right time of year for it. So it's perfect for me to think of something like this, which will be nice on some of the vegan dishes that I make, just to give it a bit more flavour and a bit of moisture as well. So hopefully it'll be a nice thing to have. And you might just have noticed that this is the cress But you might have, again, if you saw the last video, you'll see that I sowed this cress out in the garden on the little bit of compost I had left from the amaryllis, and it's sprouting. So I had it with, I wasn't sure how you should have it, but I put some cardboard over it till it sprouted, and noticed today that it had. So I put it on the kitchen windowsill, and hopefully keep it moist. Hopefully by the next time we do a bit of filming, you will see a bit of a change in it because it will have grown a bit more. And I'm really pleased with that. I wasn't sure whether it was quite old seed, so I wasn't sure whether it would sprout at all, and it has. And it's a good time to show you the sitting room because it's been dark for a little while now, and I've got just lit the fire about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so ago maybe, because it's suddenly gone chillier. And here I've got the string of paper starlights, which I'm actually really pleased with. They're only very few pounds, and although they're paper, I think that they will, if I'm careful with them and put them away carefully at the end of Christmas, I don't see why they shouldn't last another year, or hopefully a lot more than that. And the size of them, I will just step back a little bit. You can see they fit really well beside or over the fireplace. And of course they look really nice with the flames, and I think the air that comes up from the fire makes them dance a little bit, which is nice because they're so light, because they're paper. So here we are, here's the finished jars of chutney. I'm really pleased with them. It actually did make 3 jars, small jars, just as the recipe said it would. And it came out looking like a kind of jammy consistency, as it should do. And it went into the jars really well. And I think if I just leave it for, I don't know, a few days at least to mature, it will be a nice thing to have over the Advent and Christmas period. I say that because I don't think I could eat it all over, Christmas itself. So I think it'll be a treat just during this month. And of course, as there are 3 jars, I could always take one with me if I go to visit somebody. So, so that's another good reason for making things like this in this time of year. Come out into the back garden because I'm looking for some trailing kind of ivy. I did go down the lane, but it was surprising how little there was. Most of the ivy is like you can see here with the berries on, and it's kind of big chunky stems, but I was looking for some trailing stems. Can you hear that muntjac in the distance down the lane? And so I had to actually come back to the garden for that, and what I'm looking for are little trails like this to wind around my Advent candle holder. And even here, there aren't a huge number, but I've seen a few. And they're not very easy to get at either, because there's actually like a sort of bed in the way. But I'll do what I can. I'll see what I can find. I didn't find a huge amount of ivy, but considering I want to keep things simple, I think there should be actually plenty there. So I brought outside, because it's nice and light out here, my Advent candles. I was very lucky to find I'd still got these from last year, these 4 candles that hadn't been lit. Well, I've just lit this one here for a little while, but not for long. And they're on I don't know if you can see against the table, but they have a little stand here with 4 candle holders. I've had it for a few years now, and I usually just decorate it very simply by winding ivy around the metal here, which is what I'm going to do now. I might have to take the candles out first and put them back in again, I think. But it's such a lovely day that I thought it'd be really nice to do something outside. I don't know if you can hear this deer, the muntjac, is still making a lot of noise. I don't know what's going on. They do sometimes. Here we are, all done. It's probably a little bit messy, but I'll be able to see better when I get it indoors and onto the table, I think.
because obviously seeing it on this metal table, you don't really get the proper effect. But I had to take up the candles off, as I thought I probably would, and then I just wound the ivy round and around. A little bit wild looking, but that's actually okay with me. I didn't even use all the ivy I had, as you can see here, but there's enough here. I don't really want to put any more than that on. And none of it's close to where the candle flames will be. If they do burn down as far as that, obviously I should be very mindful, but I don't think they will, certainly not in a hurry. They're quite tall candles. So I'll take it in now. I'll just have a quick look at the garden as I stand here, because as you can see, it's a beautiful blue sky day, which is, yesterday was wet. We seem to be getting alternate days of really beautiful weather, blue skies and so on, not really that cold. And then the next day will be wet. So I'm making the most of today. In fact, I'm just going to get my laundry out on the line next. Everything seems to end up on the kitchen table at the moment. Actually, I'm going to put this into the sitting room in a minute. I just rested it here. This bird book I've got open here because I was actually looking up. I wasn't sure I'd found the answer, but I saw an interesting looking little bird this morning when I was out walking, and I couldn't identify it. It looked a little bit like one of these, but I don't know. They're warblers, but I really don't know how I'd narrow it down. It talks about things like the colour of their legs, well, I had a really nice view, but not that good a view. So I think it'll stay a mystery, but it was really nice to see and hear so many little birds around at the moment. Among my list of jobs for today, well, I hadn't actually written anything down, but I had in my head some things I wanted to do. One of them was what I've just done. Not that it was anything very demanding, really, but I want to make a Christmas cake, a vegan Christmas cake, and I've managed to get hold of quite a lot of different, mostly organic dried fruits. So I've combined them in this bowl. I'm going to leave them overnight soaking in some rum, which I luckily happen to have. I haven't bought any alcohol or spirits for a long time, but I think I probably bought that when I was making chocolate smugglers chocolate mousse for a candle project. Well, a little while ago, but rum keeps, I guess, indefinitely, hopefully. So I put a few spoonfuls, well, quite a few spoonfuls of that in, and that will be soaked up by the fruit. So in here I've got sultanas, raisins, cranberries, currants. They're all organic, and also a mixed peel, which isn't, and also the ginger. And the actual recipe had glacé cherries, which I didn't have, but I had some crystallized ginger, so I've put that in instead. And it suggests the recipe I have, leaving it at least overnight to soak with a lidded in a lidded bowl. So I've got a. This happens to be a bowl with a lid, which is good. And you can leave it up to a week apparently, but I won't be doing that, I don't think. But the main thing is to make sure to at least leave it overnight so that the fruit can be plumped up and it's all ready for the next stage of making a Christmas cake. If you remember, if you've been following the old shop for a while, a few years ago it was now, I was making this advent picture, and every day you'd have another little bit to add to it. There's a book that goes with it with the templates and the felt and the threads, and you wouldn't find out till each day what it was going to be. It would be a surprise. You'd have an elastic band over the bit you weren't meant to look at until the next day. So I really enjoyed doing it, but I fell a long way behind and I never did finish it before Christmas that year. And then I lost it for a while. And the other day I was actually clearing out the cupboard upstairs and I found it, although I didn't find the book at that point. But I have now. So, although I still don't imagine getting it finished by Christmas at all, I will definitely do a few more little bits. And so I will show you that what I do manage to get done, because I know some of you actually enjoyed following it before. I've actually been asked whether I ever did finish it, to which the answer is, as you can see, no. But well, I say you can see, but there are some gaps there, which I shall need to have a look at how you fill them in. I'm quite excited to do some more this year. It seems like it's a project which is going to go on and on and on for a year or two more yet, but I'll try and keep it more safely this time. So here is the Christmas or midwinter cake. I mixed up as you know, I mixed up the fruit with the rum and left it to soak. And then I've made it into a cake with all the other lovely ingredients. It's vegan, so there are ways of doing it without the eggs and butter. So I'll see how that's worked out in terms of the texture of the cake, but it's full of good things as you would have seen with all that fruit. And I've put in almonds chopped as well, and it's got ground almonds and flour and brown sugar and treacle and spice. So it's the sort of thing they would actually have had in a way, in maybe not quite so many ingredients, but there's certainly a version of a fruit cake, really from a very long time ago. I'm sure there were medieval fruit cakes. So, which is interesting, they'd have had to get the fruit from other countries, but I think we don't really give credit for how much people would actually have in their homes at Christmas time. They'd save up things specially, and they'd even have spices, which always came from exotic places. Anyway, I'm waffling too much. I'm going to get it out of the tin, and then I'm going to prick it all over and brush it with some more rum and wrap it up for probably a week or so before I ice it, and then be able to eat it or start eating it. So here we are. I've brushed it. I've pricked some holes in it with a skewer, and I've brushed the rum on both sides. Wrapped it up in some kitchen, what do you call it? Like baking parchment, so that the foil doesn't touch it. Because I don't think the foil's very good in connection if it touches the fruit or the rum. So it's all protected, and it's just in some foil, and I'll just keep it closely wrapped for about a week, and then I shall put some icing on it, and that'll be one of the most Christmassy things I can think of is a Christmas cake. I did nearly buy a vegan cake, and then I thought, no, Imogen, it probably will cost just as much to make it, but I think there's something very magical about making your own. Something like this, it's like a ritual in its own right, really, I always think. So here it is, and it did look, when I got it out of the tin, I forgot to film it when I got it out of the tin, but it all held together, and it looked very, very good, I think. So I think it's probably a really nice recipe. Hopefully, I shall let you know.